Hi, everybody. I don't usually sit there. I usually start with video, but I just want to bring up this video quickly because this is a video that's just come in from Denmark. Someone said it was last year, some is this year, but I'll play it, and it's just have a listen. I think it's quite important.
Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks. Well, this is a good example of the power of the people and also the power of the media, because I haven't heard anything about this, not through the usual news channels or even the alternative news channels. At this moment, there is literally nothing about what's just happened in Denmark. The government in Denmark had proposed a new epidemic law, which was not going to be temporary. Just to give a brief summary, this new law, it included 1. People infected can be forcibly given medical examination, hospitalized, treated and placed in isolation. 2. Government would be able to define groups of people who must be vaccinated. 3. People who refuse the above can be coerced through physical detainment. Yes. This was the new law that they were proposing to bring in. But Denmark have been protesting for the last 9 days because of this law. And after 9 days of the protest, this law now has been abandoned. Apparently Denmark have been protesting en masse with pots and pans outside their parliament. Now, this is not mentioned anywhere. I've found just 2 clips from all of this to show you, and it doesn't surprise me that the media are trying to block this out because it just doesn't follow their narrative.
Okay, I go from there. I bring everybody in there. There's my co-host. How surprising is that? And I'll keep coming. This is Richard, Australian Free Independent Press Network. Man, I've got that down pat. Richard is from South Australia. Welcome, Richard. Gwenda is from WA. WA is actually where I'm from. I'm from Midland. I was for a time. Yep. If you were going to, and for anyone out there, if you were going to give Australia an enema, you'd stick the hose in Midland. And Luke. How you going, Luke? Luke's from Sydney. So we're going to try to do these once every Sunday. Hopefully we'll get some more because Luke's trying to get independent journalists in all the things. Oh, we've got Scott Dawson's come in.
Oh,
g'day, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Scott, where are you from? Scotty?
Aha, I can hear you. How you going, Michael?
You can hear you. He's got a really strong voice. Sounds great, man.
Voice for
Where
radio.
you from?
Voice for radio.
Where you from, Scott? What state?
Where I'm from, Queensland. Well, I'm originally from England.
Fantastic. So we've got Queensland, WA, South Australia, 2 from Victoria, and 1 from Sydney. And so let's get cracking.
Luke, you're still struggling with the ACT, are you?
Yeah, haven't found anyone. No ACT in Tassie.
In Tassie. Well, apparently the news from Tassie this week was 1,600 nurses in Tassie were sacked because they wouldn't get the jab. 1,600. Now you'd think in Tassie that would be every single nurse. I mean, how many nurses would they have down there? You know?
Yeah, how many is that?
Yeah, but it's...
You might have to drive the ACT yourself, Luke, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, I've got another Sydney correspondent, so yeah, I might go down to the ACT and cover it.
Now, at the moment, I think Melbourne's had we're just drenched in Melbourne news. But that thing from Scott, before you came on, we just showed a video from Denmark, where Denmark was trying to bring in the same sort of laws that Daniel Andrews is trying to bring in here, including basically physically detaining you and forcibly vaccinating you if you didn't want to get vaccinated. But after 9 days of protesting with pots and pans, the government's thrown it out. And so it sort of shows that there's some hope down here, because we had a big protest the other day and but can we start with Queensland? Because I actually have something from Queensland here that I saw. Anti-vaxxers to become roadmap roadkill.
That's very nice of you, Anastasia Palaszczuk. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so what's it like in Queensland? I mean, that's just balmy.
To be honest with you, Queensland's been one of those places where we've not been that affected. It's been very much life as normal, other than when they lock us down. Apart from that, it's just been masks, which is really annoying when you see people walking around with masks on the street when they really don't have to. So yeah, we've not been hard hit at all. I still think Queensland government's absolutely crazy, and I think they're just sitting back and seeing what these other states can get away with. Now, one thing that does worry me about Queensland more than anything is this sort of detention centre they're building.
Camp. It's called
Is that the one in Toowoomba?
Yeah, that's the one in Toowoomba, and that really, really worries me, because I just don't understand why you would build something like that at this point during the pandemic. It just does not make sense to me. I mean, there's millions of dollars going into something when we're supposed to be at the end of a pandemic, and we've already got a vaccine, yet they're building a facility, a multi-million-dollar facility, which is going to be a permanent thing. Now,
and aren't they saying that people flying in can actually isolate at home? So they're already taking care of the ones coming in. So, yeah.
No, that's exactly right. So why the question begs, why are they building it? If I was to put my tinfoil hat on for a second, then I might say it was something to do with maybe
concentration camp. Can we say the word concentration camp? Are they banned words?
It's your show, Michael. You can say whatever you like. But yeah,
still on the air. There's, but yeah, we got one down here in Mickelburg.
Right,
yeah, they're going to have 500. They're going to be able to fit 500 by the end. Damien and I went to see it. They're going to have 500 by the end of November. They can fit 1,000 by March, and I better get some comments coming through. 1,000 by March and 2,000 by next year.
Right.
Yeah, and they're building another place. Are they building? Yeah, let's move on to WA. Ours is called the Resilience Centre.
The Resilience Centre.
There's Gwenda. How is it in WA? I hear you've been protesting a lot.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a thing, Michael. Just about every day there's been a protest on. There's been some really, really good targeting. Obviously in Victoria there was the mining guys and the tradies. So we've had the same thing here. And now that the mandates have come down to the mining company, then we've had a lot more activity, but with that sector. But tomorrow will be the nurses, and the nurses are going out in the front of Dumas House, which is part of Parliament House here. And the rally yesterday, we were told initially, I'm going to sound like mainstream now, I'll change my story. We were told that there was about 4,000 people, but it seems there was closer to 8,000 at the rally yesterday, which is fabulous. So it's been really busy over here with that sort of thing. Now, I haven't heard.
What are the police like? Are they how are they treating you? Having any special rubber bullets, or they? Yeah,
we haven't got that disco going yet. They stand back and smile. And yesterday's rally, they looked like they were thoroughly enjoying it. They looked like they were out for a picnic. Maybe they felt it was easier to be there than out actually doing some police work. Good day off for the criminals. But they don't.
Well, it's a good day to be a criminal, really, in a way, isn't it? If you know the police are going to be somewhere else, it's probably a good time.
That's right.
I was thinking about that as well.
We had them all. It was very entertaining because we had.
I don't want to give anyone any idea.
We had them on foot, we had them on bicycle, we had them on horses. They all come out so that you can see. It's quite a beautiful procession of them. But
I always like the ones on the bicycles because, I know they got the gun on the hip, but the other, it's just giggling. It's just giggling. It's hard not to just giggle even if you've been arrested.
Is it the shorts?
How can
it's
you
the shorts, isn't it?
Policeman seriously wearing lycra? I mean.
Well, what was funny
but can I ask, in all seriousness, what are they protesting against? Just to clear, because we know what they hear, but what is it? What are their demands? What are they after?
The big protests are all about freedom. So they're all about, losing your rights, losing all your inalienable rights. It's very much about that. But then when people get up to speak, it's the mandates, the false mandates and things. But it's always brought back to freedom. and right of choice.
Well, the mandates are freedom. I mean, if you don't have the freedom to say no, you're not free. As simple as that. And they're basically telling you, you want the freedom to say no? Cool. Well, you'll also have the freedom not to eat, not to work, and not to live underneath shelter because you won't be able to rent. You won't be able to rent anything. There's over here now, a guy in Wollongong told us the renters there have been told, do not put anything on your house which could signify that you're an anti-vaxxer, or you'll be charged with property destruction.
So there goes your Halloween sign, Luke.
Yeah,
no coercion. There's no
That's
coercion
true.
there,
That's
though.
true, Luke. That's what they're actually saying. That's and they've all said it very nicely in these nice emails. But basically, and they've used they didn't have to make old posters. They made new ones. It basically no Jews here, and they've just crossed out Jews and put no unvaxxed. So that's basically how draconian it is. And I know you're not supposed to say these things, but that's how fucking draconian it is.
So Mark McGowan's been a bit of a tough man, hasn't he, around the pandemic? He's painted an image of himself as a hard man. So what sort of noises is Mark McGowan making at the moment? We're having all sorts of problems with Dan trying to pass these, special emergency pandemic powers. What's Mark McGowan doing in Western Australia?
The thing that I like about Dan Andrews, can you believe that? That I like about Dan Andrews, don't take that literally, is that
Where's the goat?
He's in your face. He doesn't make any bones hidden about what he's doing, whereas this little darling over here, he hides. So people think that because we're moving about in what would be thought of as a normal life, they think they're all safe and they're all cool. But then he comes out with media statements saying about the mining company have to be mandated, and then he sneaks in around on another day and says all retail have to be mandated, and he does it all with a smile. He's ever so...
Oh, that's how they do it.
And he's actually got the general public believing we're all in it together and that he is keeping them safe. We've had conversations...
Well, he got re-elected on a landslide, didn't he, being a hard man?
Sorry?
He got elected on a landslide.
He got re-elected on a landslide. Being a hard man.
An election. That was a totally rigged, corrupt election. And I know you're not supposed to say things like that either, but it's the truth.
Yeah, go ahead. Knock yourself out.
You come to the right place if you want to say.
What are they going to do? Stick us in a concentration camp?
Well, that's what you're building over there. So, yeah. But,
are they building anyone? Have you heard whether they're building one there? Got a lot of space.
Haven't we just? No, to be honest, I haven't heard that there's one being built here. The closest one that we've heard about is up in the Northern Territory somewhere. So, yeah, we haven't heard here. But he's...
So you've got to really...
Gulag.
Sorry?
I said that's a long trip to the Gulag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe he's hoping you won't make it. He won't have to transport.
Get a good suntan. Richard... can we move to South Australia, because we literally hear very little from South Australia, but I've actually, through the media, but I've had lots of people contacting me in the site really upset, nurses who are being mandated, and it's a nightmare, and it's almost a second crime that no one hears anything. So how's it going there?
Well, it's been very done slowly here in South Australia. Nurses and healthcare, the majority of them have to be jabbed by tomorrow. Tomorrow is their deadline, the first deadline. And then they've also made a second group of anyone who has anything to do with healthcare or allied health, pretty much. Even if you're a freight driver who walks in, drops a parcel on the counter and walks out, you have to be mandated by the 8th. That came in the other week. And then on Tuesday, Marshall turned around in a press conference and he says, we're not going to mandate anybody else. Everyone's doing good in South Australia, because the dickhead he is thinks he's in control. Wednesday afternoon, SAPOL got mandated. They have to be judged by the 15th.
Who's SAPOL? Who's that, sorry?
SAPOL, police.
South Australian police, I think.
Oh, my God. They're actually trying to mandate the police. They were going to do that here and they backed off because I think they thought the police would actually go, nah, we're off. And if the police walked off, there's no way they could get away with what they're doing.
We've seen
15th November at 12:01. They have to be done.
They've done the same thing.
5th November.
The Queensland police have actually
15th.
kicked up a fuss about it.
15th. So they've got 2 weeks, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, but they've all got to, by the 3rd, which is Wednesday, they have to make their intentions known.
Wow.
So,
So their
our commissioner did
supervisors
that.
have said, by Wednesday, we want to know what you're doing, yes or no.
Wow.
Did you know
It
that?
flies in the face of so many treaties. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter anymore, but it flies in the face of so many treaties. It's just extraordinary. It is extraordinary set of circumstances.
Who's running the state? Marshall?
Yeah,
he says 1 minute that we're not mandating anybody else because we're doing okay. I mean, we're doing shit. If you were rooting for stats, we're a little bit behind. Not that I care, but he's obviously gone. No, we're not mandating Tuesday, and then Tuesday night they've gone, hey mate, we're a bit behind. Who's next? Oh, we'll do SAPOL. So SAPOL, police force has now been mandated.
And what's the police force done? Have you heard any sort of kickback, like police members?
There's a group that I'm in where, yes, there is a bit of kickback. They had a meeting today, as far as I'm aware. I'm not sure what the outcome of that is yet. They're, of course, going to their representatives trying to get some support, and I don't think it's been all that forthcoming. Bit like with Victoria, you know, you go to your union and the union goes...
Oh, the unions have all agreed to it. And the interesting thing about the unions, I know of the rail union, CMFU, they didn't even ask the members. They just said, you're doing it.
I think a lot are just going to take leave for as long as they can. So tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. There is a protest, I think, planned out the front of Channel 9 in the city tomorrow for all the nurses and healthcare workers. I think they're hoping that some of the police force will rock up and sit with them. But I think
wouldn't that be interesting if the police did that? If the police were protesting,
we've had no issues
police in. Yeah, but would they get police in to police the police who are protesting? That'd be interesting. Well, can I ask what's the mass media like there? Because over here, like for instance, the MSN said there was 200 protesters at the last protest Saturday. Is it the same?
Yeah, look, we've had the same thing here with the protests. The bigger ones they've had, the monthly ones they've had in Adelaide, they've said, oh, you know, there was a couple of hundred or, you know, 1,000 when there's been 3,000 or 4,000. So that stuff still happens. The last one I went to in Adelaide, there was one guy, I think he was Channel 9, and he wasn't even game to talk to anyone or bring the camera up because everyone that walked past him bagged him out.
Yeah.
And put shit on him.
Well, that's good.
We've had enough. Like everyone's had enough. Mainstream.
I actually heard
we've got a couple of really good. We've got a couple of really good local streamers over here. You know, like Rukshan and RVM. And there's a few guys that are just doing it on their own. Joel,
Tammy,
some people from this network. Tammy, have you got anything like that? Any of you guys, I guess, could answer this. Is there sort of an equivalent that you have on the ground? Someone sort of made a bit of a name and a bit of notoriety for themselves, doing the people's
in Adelaide?
voice, the people's streaming.
We're going to try and make it ourselves.
Yeah, that's
that's the point.
And now going to start doing it, but we don't have an RV or a Rukshan or anything like that here yet.
I saw Rebel News was advertising. The mass media can't live stream because they can't control the narrative if they do. They simply can't. Scott,
people might swear.
What are you finding let's call them the enemy of the people, the mass media? What are they like in Queensland? Are they more disgusting there as well?
They're absolutely disgusting. Mainstream media as a whole, since this whole thing began, has been absolutely disgusting. To be honest with you, it's one of the main problems that we have, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without the mainstream media, being as corrupt as they are, then the government could not have done what they have done. So
I totally agree.
I feel with this free independent press that we're trying to create here, or that we are creating here with with Luke at the helm. I think it's one of our main strategies to beat this whole crime. What's going on right now? We need to replace the mainstream media. That's what we need to do. We need to tear them down to their very roots and remind them that, hey, if you guys aren't going to tell us the truth, then you don't deserve to be in that position that we give you. And
Scott, do you have any live streamers in Queensland? Do you have any live streamers on the ground doing that in Queensland?
There's myself. Each protest that I go to, I always live stream it. I always try and G the crowd up a little bit and stand up on the corners when they're a bit quiet and get them all G'd up. So yeah, I've been having a go. We don't really have anybody like Rukshan, who's made a name for himself as such.
The interesting thing with Rukshan is when he started, the protests were illegal. So they were very dramatic. There was a great tension. This week, it's been a bit different.
Right,
you know what I mean? He turned up one of them, but then we didn't see him for the rest of the week because it's not very exciting. It's just some people sitting on steps saying a few speeches and the police just being quiet. So it sort of doesn't hold the people's attention as much if there's not the thugs going around in all the armored gear, adding that extra Star Wars tension to it. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
One thing that they did in Queensland at one of the protests, which really, really pissed me off, it was because all of the protests in Queensland, it's more like a festival sort of atmosphere. You know, it's a carnival atmosphere. We're actually all having a good time, and it's very peaceful, very friendly. Now, because the mainstream media can't get any footage at all, then what they do is they splice in some footage from the Brisbane protest and then put it side by side with the protest in Melbourne. And the headline will read the Melbourne headline. So they'll throw us into the same boat as Melbourne when absolutely nothing happened. So I mean, I try and scream at, I try and point that out as much as possible. This is nonsense, and the numbers reporting is ridiculous. You know, they moved from a narrative of there might be 300 or 400 people, and then they changed to a new narrative of it's over 1,000 people. It's like no shit, it's more like 20,000 people.
Yeah, see, editing's a really important trick to them. That's why they can't afford to have a live stream on the ground, just taking the footage in real time because they've got to get home and they've got to edit it. It's really to edit the story.
It's interesting, we're sitting here and we don't have resources. Most of us are doing this for free. We might get a few bucks here or there from something. Most of us are doing this for free. We're compelled to do it. I know, everyone here. And we're having this discussion about real things, which is interesting people. They're, though, sitting there with millions and millions and millions of dollars in these big offices. They got every camera, everything that you can get. And they're actually sitting there going, okay, here's the truth. How can we lie? How can we change it into
How can we spin it?
How can we spin it into the opposite?
I thought Gwenda...
Sorry.
I thought Gwenda was going to say something before. That's all. I just thought...
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Gwenda.
Saying that mainstream did turn up to the rally yesterday and they got absolutely slammed. Every time they tried to do any filming or they tried to interview, get their Journo to do her fabrication, people rushed them. And I filmed it so that I could watch it and show people what was really happening. But there was a lady in the audience with a really big sign and she'd written all over it about, leave our kids alone and everything to do with the truth, and she was holding it up behind the reporter, and the guy with the camera kept trying to narrow in so he could get his Journo, and he couldn't. This lady was so clever with her big poster that she had. They gave up and left. It was so funny to watch.
That's really interesting. There's it's great. After the protest, more people came to our protest on Saturday. I think because there'd been less police during the week, there hadn't been as much police violence, so there was less. But someone actually said to me that as protesters, we have to get cleverer. And one thing they said was to attack the media. But over here, they've been throwing things at the Channel 7 guy, which is great fun to watch. But they're actually saying, don't do that. It's actually just do what those people in WA did. Is that's the perfect way to do it. It's harass them. So, and because they're an enemy, and I saw it. I brought this up on the show before. But when they were shooting at people in the streets in Melbourne, they were there. They saw it. They could see this armored car going by, and they did nothing. They did nothing at all. And this could have been their kids running by. And the cameraman was crying. I remember I've brought this up before, but some things I think are important to stand out. The cameraman was crying because obviously he wanted to report it, and the report is shaking. You're thinking, how much are they paying you that as a reporter, you're going to stay silent as you're watching thugs shoot, your people? You know, do you have no integrity at all? Is there not a skerrick of integrity in you? Is your apartment or whatever, your mortgage, is your house worth so much that you're willing to turn away to that sort of action? Because they didn't report on it at all. All they have said was that we were pissing on the shrine, which turned out to be a horse, you know, one of theirs, because we didn't have any horses.
Yep.
They're professional liars, aren't they? They're professional liars. It's what they do for a living. They only write to create dissidence. They only write to create disharmony, fear, you know, have everyone angry. They don't write to create compassion and everything that humanity really stands for. We heard from a nurse today that they did a protest outside the ABC office here in Perth last week. And she said that ABC employees and journalists actually gave them the bird from out of the windows. Wow. So the nurses were downstairs. They were actually having a silent protest. The nurses were there in uniform doing a silent protest. And she said a few of them that came out briefly spoke, basically saying, "What are you doing here?" But the majority of them opened their windows and gave them the bird from the window.
And these are nurses. These are nurses. These are nurses they're doing it to.
Where's the compassion?
Yes, there's none, and they're not trying
to say we've been spitting on them.
Respect, decency and respect, and then they worry about
superiority. Luke, on a superiority trip. Yeah.
Luke, sorry, Luke, we have apartheid here now in Melbourne, like you. What's it like? You've got about a week or two ahead of us. What's it like there now with apartheid in Sydney?
I'll let you know in 1 second. I just want to bring one thing up. We actually got contacted by an ABC cameraman today who wanted to do work for AFIPN, but they were hoping to, of course, we don't have the funds to pay them, so that particular person is still out there looking for a job. But they have said that if they've got the time at the next rally or something, they will come out with their professional gear and help us.
Wow.
Because they're on that. They're getting sacked.
Well, this is where the stories are so much more interesting. Our story's going to be so much more interesting. But I think you hit the heart of it is they haven't suffered at all financially, particularly the ABC.
Not yet.
No. And all the other media organisations.
Well, see, that cameraman
have not suffered like the people have. And to keep people with contempt, it's extraordinary.
And that's the problem that we have, isn't it? Because all the gatekeepers, none of them have suffered. You know, between the politicians, the police, and the mainstream media, none of them have suffered. So how can they possibly put themselves in our shoes?
I disagree with the police. I was contacted last night by one of the... See, what happens in Melbourne, Luke, is that the police turn up in these huge coaches, and they're full of police. And so you can have a protest with, say, 40 nurses, and you'll have 3 coachloads of police turn up, including 5 or 6 four-wheel drives with the rest, and a helicopter overhead. And one of the bus drivers who's been driving around contacted me last night and was saying how troubled the police were with it, how they were really struggling with it. And they said, they brought up, I just want to finish this, they brought up Richmond, and they said the police were saying that Richmond was just a cock-up. They had a lot of new young recruits on. Everything was crazy. At one point, the young recruits got kettled at something. So it was just nuts. But that's been a huge over-response. We call them, I've been calling them sledgehammers. That's how it's been. So I'm not sure that the police are morally comfortable. Some of them maybe, but I really believe a lot of them are not morally comfortable with what's going on.
I didn't mean that they haven't suffered at all. I mean, they haven't suffered financially. That was more what I meant. It was.
Sorry. That's correct. In fact, they benefited. They're getting lots of paid extra. Here's something interesting. This woman here circled on the floor. That was at the Saturday protest. That's the old grandmother that got knocked down and pepper sprayed. And she came to do a mass, but she didn't come anywhere in. I talked to her. Her name's Mary. She doesn't want anything else known. She doesn't want a photograph. She's except she's Croatian. But I was told by this bus driver that the police are telling all the other police that it was a plant and it wasn't an old woman. But it was. She told me, I actually said to her, was the reason that you didn't run away as the police were running to you? Was the reason you didn't run away because you just took it for granted that you never thought the police would attack you because you're an old woman? And she said, yes, that's exactly right. She said, I just thought I was safe because I was an old woman. That's basically what she said. And then, of course, she was knocked over and pepper sprayed, not by one, but by 2 police officers. And one reason to bring that up is Melbourne's trying to sweep it under the covers, but it actually breaks one of the... I don't know. It's just this huge thing that the police officers should be heroes in our society. That's maybe a few corrupt ones, but the majority should be heroes. And that just totally destroyed that myth. You know what I mean? And it needs to be addressed and talked about. And the police officers that did it need to be held to account.
I heard a police officer say that it was a tranny dressed up as an old woman.
Yeah, it was all lies.
That's
how they span it. They got $110 million of media people in Dan's office, apparently, to spin stuff. And it took them 2 days to come up with stories. But I actually met that old woman at the protest. She was wearing a cape, wearing the Australian flag like a cape. And she's a different woman. She's not everyday thing, but she's in her 70s, very, very religious. And she just wanted to see what was going on. And she's from a country that's had a lot of oppression. And so she was there to defend freedom. And that's the price she paid. And so that's the reality.
So I think the police are actually getting bonuses, getting bonuses.
Yeah, that's true.
For what they're doing as well. So not only have they not suffered, they're actually getting something extra. Now, they may suffer morally for it, but ultimately, we've all made a decision, haven't we? Like I know you and I have, Michael, and I'm sure these guys have as well. My career's in jeopardy now for reaching out, and who knows what happens in the long run. You can't answer that. But people can keep saying, oh, well, I've got to pay my mortgage, I've got to pay for my kids. Well, I've got a mortgage and I've got kids as well. But at what point does it become a moral issue and not just a material issue? And to your point too, Scott, I reckon, I think with the media too, they almost got a self-aggrandizement out of this whole, putative pandemic, because it's like their stories are more important than ever. And it's more important than ever that I'm reporting on a story where I'm locking everybody else down. And I don't even really consider that because we're saving humanity. And here I am with my makeup on and I'm the lead story and I can still take my mask off where everyone else has got to wear theirs. I think it's actually contemptible in some respects what they're doing.
Absolutely consistent.
Yeah, I totally agree. Anyway, sorry, back to Scott. Scott, what is Sydney like? Sorry, we drifted away.
Luke.
What is Luke? Sorry, Luke. Sorry, what is Sydney like with the?
Basically, we got 93% vaxxed, if you believe the figures. It does actually seem that way though. It's hard to find an unvaxxed person in Sydney. Everyone has gone along and complied basically. But being unvaxxed, if I want to go to a certain shop, even if they were open during the major lockdown and considered essential, you still need to check, because Super Cheap Auto was allowed to open during the lockdown, but yet you're not allowed in there unless you're vaxxed. So if you want to go somewhere, you got to ring up, will you let them unvax you? No. So yeah, I spent like $20 extra on oil the other day. Then health food shops, you'd expect them. They were luckily, yes, will allow the unvaccinated, but that's what you've got to live your life like, checking to see if you can get into places.
And are they enforcing it, or are they getting slack? Because I heard from the further down on the coast, I heard there that they're getting very slack. No one's checking everything, which is good. That's the Aussie way to be slack. So that could be actually really
the smaller shops you just walk into. But the major shops are very compliant. They've got someone at the door. You can sit there and cause the scene if you want, but I don't bother. I just go if they're going to be like that.
They can afford it. They can afford someone to.
Yeah, they can afford to pay someone where little shops can't. But the little shops, I'll walk straight in. No one even says anything. And you just go do what you do. But
sorry to interrupt you. I've been contacted by a lot of people joking around how they're getting around with fake passports, and actually telling me how they do it, which is really interesting, and how they're getting them from the dark web.
Yeah, Yeah, I have heard of all those sort of things. But there was a law brought in, a massive fine, $90,000 or something like that. If you caught
90,000.
So, yeah.
In jail time.
So punitive, all the measures.
And do you have apartheid in any of? Do you have apartheid in any of these other 3 states? Do you have them in Perth or Queensland or South Australia yet?
Not yet. I say yet.
Yeah. It's working its way here.
What I see happening in the background is, even though not everyone's mandated here, like 75% Western Australia workforce now mandated. Northern Territory's all been mandated. Victoria's been mandated. What seems to be happening here is businesses are just going out by themselves and mandating their workforce.
Yeah.
And they don't have to. There's no reason for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And it's weird.
Well, the reason for it is they want to keep getting government contracts. They have to do it. If you want to keep getting a government contract, you'll do our dirty work for us, corporations.
And that's what's happening.
Otherwise,
here.
You're out.
Yeah, if you're a government contract, then you need to have 100% employed. I got told by someone who want every one of your 100% of them have to be vaccinated. We had an interesting story here in Ballarat that an old man in his 80s went to a cafe, sat down outside. The waiter came up and said, "Can you see your papers?" Basically, and he said, "I don't have my phone, but I'm double vaxxed." And the waiter said, "Well, unless you can prove it, you got to go." And so this is an 80-year-old man, and it's
probably fought in the war.
Yeah,
fought in the war
exactly.
For our freedoms, but then
exactly. Maybe Vietnam War. Yeah, who knows? All these things, and he doesn't have his smartphone, and he can't prove that he's a free person.
It's bringing out all the little brown shirts. All the little brown shirts that want to come out. There they are. You 3, all of you, so Richard, Gwenda and Scott, all your states respectively have quite a large Indigenous population. Mm-hmm. So how's the vaccine rollout been in that respect? What's happened? And this question's to the 3 of you.
It's been a bloody disgrace over here. They've really sucked in the Aboriginal Medical Service. The advertising on the Indigenous TV network has been disgraceful. They've turned into vaccine on wheels, mobile vans, and have driven them out to the different communities. And they're basically forcing them on them. They are making it seem that, they're just taking them back in time, really. They're just putting them back into a place of history that they've been in before, and making it felt that they won't be able to leave their community, they won't be able to access food. And, of course, they're hearing from some of their other communities over east that they are without food, so they are falling into it. They've also been paying. We saw a video the other day, and I haven't verified it, but this young fella said, "Why not get $500, eh?"
Oh yeah, I have seen that video. But there's a lot. I've heard that there's a lot of kickback. How about you, Scott, in Queensland?
Well, something I've noticed a bit of an uprising in Facebook posts with some of the Aboriginal communities crying for help. That was really concerning. And one of our reporters, Bridge, actually drove all the way up to Gympie to go and help out there and interview them. So yeah, the stories I'm hearing, and again, you can't really confirm it firsthand unless you're actually there. But the stories I'm hearing is they're very isolated communities, so it's very easy for the authorities to kind of block them off from the rest of civilization and clamp them down. And that's the feeling I'm getting what they're doing with the Aboriginal communities. They're not able to communicate with the rest of the country like we are in this kind of format. So it's quite easy for them to. Like I saw an older gentleman in his house, and there was a couple of police officers on the perimeter of his property. For some reason, they wouldn't come onto his property. I don't know what that is about that, but they wouldn't come onto his property. But they were shouting out to him, and he was basically telling him to just go away. Go away. You're not helping us. If anything, they were terrorizing them. They were terrorizing them with fines when they knew full well that these people were starving. And that's what it feels to me. It feels like they're just trying to drive the communities down into such a depression that when it comes to, hey, we're going to set you free now, and this is your ticket out of here, that they're just going to take it.
Yeah, and that takes away their integrity, which they've already had damage from all the decades that we've treated them like complete shit.
Yeah, from what I understand, they've locked down the Aboriginal communities up north. All the, I guess, the Aboriginals that are in Adelaide that would normally travel between Adelaide and up north to their homes, at the moment they're not allowed to travel back there. They've locked them down up there for their safety, to keep COVID out.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And where are they? Where's all the sick people? Where's all the sick Aboriginal people? In fact, where's the sick people anywhere? Just somebody show me.
Where's the sick people in Victoria? I want to see these 2,000 people a day that are actually sick from COVID. Where are they?
That's right.
Well, not at the protest.
He locked the state down for a month because of one person, and now he's opened it up with 2,000. Yeah. Apparently, New Zealand. We were trying to get the New Zealand Chantel, who's amazing. She's busy tonight, but New Zealand is going through the same mandates, and New Zealand only has one House of Parliament. So once it goes through that house, it's law. And but they're bringing in, they were bringing in a traffic light social credit score system that I heard. Does anyone know how that works? Have you heard, Luke?
I did read about it for New Zealand. I'm trying to think now what it said.
It's probably modelled on the
trial. It's a trial at this stage. I know that.
That's correct, but it's only aimed at people like us.
Was it? Okay, I didn't see that part. But yeah, I just
that's what I heard. Proud of it. That's what I heard from what I read. That it's only aimed at people who go against the narrative of the COVID narrative. You know, that's what I heard. Whether it's true or not, because you hear all these little bits, and. But I just can't believe this is going on in New Zealand, where they've literally had no cases.
It would have been good to have Chantel on because there's I don't know enough about it, but basically there's a Maori town that have rebelled up against the government, and there's a big standoff going on at the moment. So that would have been really good to talk about because they're taking these big stands against everything going on. And the police have shut down communications out of this town. They've blocked it off everywhere. So it's been all over the news in New Zealand the last couple of days. Well, the alternative news. Let's correct that.
So they've sealed off. They've sealed off the town, almost like a Wakefield thing. They've sealed off the town. You mean?
Yeah. And this is a Maori town, so it's not what you'd expect from New Zealand, but because they're going against the narrative. It's just creating a lot of problems over there. So anyone who is watching this should definitely check out Chantel Baker on Facebook and follow that sort of thing.
She's so hard-faced.
I feel really sorry for the Indigenous community because I was just to finish off that Indigenous stuff we were talking about before, because they're so welfare dependent. They've been made dependent on the government system. So now what chance do they have of actually saying no to it? Because the only chance any of us seem to really have is to take ourselves off of the dependency of the state. The only chance is to stay outside of it. And it's those with some accrued wealth at the moment that can maintain not having a jab, perhaps, because they can continue on for a bit longer and not rely on a check from week to week. And that's the Indigenous community has no hope of saying no to that system because they're already subservient to that system. And it's
I have no doubt
that and that's our only chance to get away from the system. How do we do that?
Sorry, Scott.
Oh, I was just saying.
Sorry, Scott. What were you going to say?
I was just saying Jacinda is just so hard-faced. I remember earlier on in the pandemic.
She's amazing.
I think it was like 12 months into it, and she was being asked by a reporter, "How do you, how have you done this? How have you kept it out? How have you kept it out of the country?" And she said, "Oh, just propaganda." But just blatantly, it's just propaganda. I've been feeding the New Zealand public propaganda. Or in other words, I've been lying to them. So I don't know how.
She does with her father. Have you seen? She does shows with her father. That's where I saw them, and I asked, could I interview you both because I found them amazing, and and they just come on. They spoke really candidly. They were very open, and we got shut down. YouTube cancelled. I think we didn't get a Facebook ban, but we got a severe warning, and they took the video down. And it was just like, what? This is a father and daughter. That's when it really hit here. Like, how crazy is this? You know what I mean? And and then she interviewed me recently. That one stayed up, but she doesn't care. She's sharp as a wick, but it's terrifying, the stories that they're saying about New Zealand. It's terrifying. And she has the same, that the people over there, the majority are just going with it. Which is interesting. Can I ask Richard, over here we have Dan has all the numbers. I know in Perth he has all the numbers, but what's it in Adelaide? What's the parliament? Is it, is it sort of even Steven or?
There seems to be a few issues going on at the moment. I know the Speaker of the House was replaced a couple of weeks ago at midnight. For whatever reason, they decided. Yeah, it happened at midnight. He was overridden at midnight and booted out, and someone else jumped in and took his spot. And I know Marshall's not happy about it.
And nothing to say why?
Because, there's the guy that was in there. I can't remember which party he was with, but he became an independent the week before. So the week before he took the spot, he became an independent. He's jumped in there and says he wants to be an independent speaker. He has donated, or says he's going to donate, his extra pay rise for being Speaker of the House to charity, which he has started doing. So Marshall's not happy about it. So that's probably a good thing. And then you've got today, Peter Malinauskas, which is the Labor leader, the opposition here, has turned around and said Labor's going to support a cross-border commissioner based in Mount Gambier down here in the southeast, because there's big issues with the border, because I'm 20 k's from the border here, and there's a lot of people live just over the border that work here or in Mount Gambier. So they announced today they're going to have a cross-border commissioner in place for the next 4 years, and they're going to fund it at $2 million if they're elected. So they're already, this is Labor in South Australia, they're not in power, but they're already predicting 4 more years of border bullshit.
And with another layer of bureaucracy to buttress it. That will be paid for. Where's all this money coming from?
Yep.
If they're going to have 4 more years, the only way they can do that is if they bring in emergency laws like Dan's bringing in. Because under the Constitution, once the emergency law is finished, they have to have free travel between the states. They are not allowed to impede that. So the only way they do it, and that's what we were talking today to at a protest where I was at today, and to Jason Miles from who's a Senate candidate for the National Australian Great Australian Party up in Queensland, as saying if they get it passed here, then it only makes sense that they're going to try roll out the same draconian laws in all the states so that it'll be managed that way, because there's no way, that's the only way they can do that. You know?
And even Northern Territory,
like then in South Australia,
sorry,
as far as that's concerned, like as far as standing up and saying no to these mandates, like what Michael's just been talking about, what's the feeling like? And I suppose this is a question to all of you, but I'll start with Richard. What's the feeling like on the ground in South Australia as far as the people are concerned?
The people, I went to a group today where we meet in the park, and we all, there's no signs. It's not a protest. We just stand around and have a discussion. And we feel like we are definitely the minority. We're the minority here. There's enough of us standing up to say something, but there's so many people who are just complying because it's easier. Let's just get the jab because it's easier. We can go on with our life. South Australia, there's not many restrictions in place. You've got to check in. You've got to wear your mask. Now, I didn't wear a mask at all. I don't have to. I've been to the doctor. I've got a little piece of paper. I have not actually had to show anyone that piece of paper. I walk in, they go, have you got a mask? I say, I've got an exemption. They go, okay. That's it. No issue whatsoever. Even in Bunnings, surprisingly in Bunnings, because they've been really on top of this whole mask thing. Plus they're offering free jabs with the sausage.
Yeah.
But South Australia, we're fighting a losing battle.
Nothing will.
we are fighting a losing battle.
God, if only they're offering that over here, I would have been double dosed ages ago. Forget about the whole thing.
With onion. Got to have the onion on top.
A lot if I'm getting a jab for it.
Yeah, very few kicking up, especially in the country areas.
What was that, Scott?
A free pap.
What was that, Scott? Sorry, I missed it.
I said I saw a meme, free pap smears at Bunnings
Yeah, that's aisle 6.
Yeah, I don't know or the finger up the
so
butt.
Well for me, Scott.
That's aisle 7.
It's all about me.
Yeah. If you want some pain, there is on the bottom rung. You go down and burn it is up your ass with the finger. Go, it's on the house.
free prostate check.
So what's it feeling like, Gwenda, in Western Australia as far as the people are concerned?
Well, listening to Richard, I'd have to say that it's different. And, it really concerns me with what you're saying over there in South Australia, Richard. Obviously, the people there really aren't aware of what this jab is really about. I'm really surprised. But over here, our meetings, our daily meetings, our protests have just gotten bigger and bigger. The feeling among the people at the moment is more the concern because of the man's order to, 75% of the population to be vaccinated or injected. So that's rattling people because of their bills, their mortgages, everything that everyone else has experienced, in the other states. But the interesting thing is they're not cowering. They're not cowering. They're not prepared to give in. They seem to be having a stronger resolve. At each meeting I go to, there's a stronger resolve. And I think that's because people are starting to decide to find out more about what this is. And of course, the more they find out, the stronger their resolve is. And Richard, that's appalling, I got to say, for the South Australian people to just bow down like that. They must
country areas, that's what it's like. And I saw a comment pop through before. There's no issues in South Australia. There's no restrictions. And that's why people don't see that there's a problem here. We've got no COVID. All you've got to do is wear a mask and check in everywhere.
We don't have any COVID here either until the numpty decides that an Uber driver who went all
You've only got to jump through 2 hoops.
We've only got one in hotel quarantine. That's it. And we're still in a state of emergency.
Is it even real?
How many do you have in WA? How many cases do you have in WA?
At the moment, none.
10?
None. 0.
None. So you have no cases. And now my parents are in WA. As far as I know, you've had no cases for ages. And that's still got emergency laws. There's no cases.
Yep.
And he was wanting to renew the.
It's the sort of thing that leaves you breathlessly. What do you? It's just and you've got one case in South Australia, because over here today you're allowed to not have the masks, and so many people are wearing the masks. You don't have to wear it outside, and yet they're going out. They're in the parks. Loads of people are wearing it.
Gwenda, are you saying that McGowan wants to increase the state of emergency?
Yeah, he wanted to take it through for over another year. And as I said, he's
a year.
Yep. Yeah, he was.
Is he going to do that, or is he trying to get that through Parliament? What's happening around that?
Well, he doesn't even, as far as we're led to believe, he doesn't even take it through Parliament. He and his little team get together and they do whatever they want. Like the police commissioner is no longer called the police commissioner first thing in the morning. He's the vaccine commander. That's his new title.
COVID commander.
No.
We've got to keep everything.
VC on the couldn't write this shit. Vaccine commander.
Yeah. But then in the
these guys are drunk on power, man. They're drunk on power.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the vaccine commander.
Yeah. It's a disgrace.
Scott, what's it like?
That's extraordinary.
Just ask Scott, what's it like on the ground in Queensland, mate, as far as the resistance is concerned?
Well, I can only go off what I can see with my eyes.
And how many cases do you have? Can I ask how many cases you have first too, Scott, before we start?
We have bugger all cases unless they want a case to be here. I'll give you a for instance, okay? I got tinfoil hat wearing, but I'll give you a for instance. So all of a sudden they're having problems with truckies, yeah? There's been no mention of truckies for 2 years. Now, as soon as there's a mention of truckies causing some kind of blockade, then all of a sudden it was a truckie that brought COVID over the border. And, it's just coincidence, of course it is. It's 2 days after the truckie.
Bloody essential service workers.
So the cases are here as and when they want them to be here at their convenience. That's the way I see it. Cases mean absolutely nothing. Okay, if you go out and test so many people, you can create cases. Now, using my eyes, can see at these protests we're getting a regular turnout of at least 10,000 people. There was another popular protest that happened, and that's with virtually no cases and not many lockdowns, not many restrictions. I mean, these mad politicians, Anastasia Palaszczuk and Jeanette Young in Queensland, doing a mask mandate for people to wear masks outdoors, whilst there's one case in Brisbane which is already isolated. And that's just crazy. And the thing is, though,
and is that statewide or just the city?
No, actually, no. I think it was certain areas. So I think it was virtually the whole southeast. And there was another pocket as well. I think there's another pocket up in Rockhampton as well, somewhere around that area.
What if you were on the shores of, say, the beach in, right at the top of, saying Cooktown? So if they get a case in Brisbane, you got to wear a mask in Cooktown.
It's happened during this pandemic. People have had to wear masks, like
it's happened in South Australia,
3 days drive away for one case in Brisbane. It's like, you're crazy. It's crazy. I mean, me personally, I'm just like, no, I'm not doing that. I've never wore a mask. I've not signed a Q. I've not done a QR. I'm not doing it. I'm not complying with it at all. And I'm also not getting bothered by it. No one's bothering me. No one's asking me any questions because I just basically ignore them. If someone stood out the door saying, "Yeah, you're going to check in, sir," it's like, "No, fine, thank you," and I'll just carry on walking through and do my business. But yeah, the situation in Queensland, I have a gut feeling why it's so different in Queensland. It's purely politician driven. It's not being driven by the police enforcement at all. Now, I genuinely do not believe that the Queensland government have any support from Queensland Police. There's been zero enforcement, zero.
Oh, that's interesting.
I've also spoken to at least 3 or 4 different individual policemen, and a couple of them actually turned around to me and said, "It's a return to fascism." They can see exactly what's going on. Now, they introduced the mask for the vaccine mandate to the police. And immediately, 2,000 to 3,000 police are walking off the job if they have to get mandated. So you can see clearly they've got no support from the police whatsoever. And I think the status for the police at the moment in Queensland is that they went to court, so now they've had to put these mandates on hold until they find out what happens at the court case, and then they might roll through with the vaccine mandate for the police. But I think the numbers 2,000 to 3,000, losing 2,000 to 3,000 police is massively underestimated. Which is
but I think what they'll do to get around that, won't they to get around that? Won't they just say, well, these are jobs Australians don't want to do, so we'll just get a foreign workforce in to pick up the slack?
Well, it could be worse than that, actually, because they did pass the law a few months back, and Labor and Liberal Federal put it through that in a case of emergency, they can bring in foreign troops, and the foreign troops have that you can't do them for anything. They kill someone, there's nothing you can do, no liability. And they did pass that. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but that could happen. So they lose 3,000 cops. Well, we're just going to have to bring in some. I just want to get to Luke, though, before we move towards the end, because we'll probably go a little bit over. How can we hear some about Palaszczuk and how Sydney's, because she's got done again with her phone taps, which has been fun to watch from down here.
I haven't been following. I've been so busy with everything. I should be because I'm in Sydney, but I haven't. But I just wanted to bring up something else because I can't really comment on that. But he was talking about enforcement in Sydney. There were some stats to come out today. 51,642,000 infringement notices have been issued this year. 5,691 court attendance notices and 296,897 businesses inspected to make sure they're following COVID protocols. So if you wonder why Sydney's at 93%, it's because they've had the full force of the law put down on them. They're scared to protest. If we went out like they went out in Victoria, they would have done the same. But they blocked off roads. They had mass roadblocks in the city. You couldn't get in.
You even had the army on the ground. You had the army on the ground.
And they were coming to your house. So if you put one post on Facebook to say, I'm going out to protest or come to this protest, you had them at your house the day before. So they got to every single person in Sydney, basically, that was promoting these, and either was just a friendly knock on the door where they reminded them not to do it, but if they were more involved, their house got raided.
Yeah, I've seen the videos, It's what's extraordinary is, there's millions of people there, and yet there's still only a minority of, even if there's thousands of cops, it's 1,000 policing. It's extraordinary. And the surveillance, the amount of surveillance and algorithms they'd need to fine to pick up something. And I'm watching people now. Have you seen the language when they post? They don't say COVID. They say, they call it different names, like the mafia use code and stuff just to get past things. Ivermectin is called I know tin. I saw one and I thought that was really cute. Now I've given it away now, so the algorithm's gone, oh, that's what that means. And but yeah. Yeah, God damn it.
Richard, can I ask you something in particular, Richard?
Yeah, mate.
Oh, no, just Gwen, did you want to talk to Michael first?
Yeah, sorry, there was just a question there. There's been some great comments that I've been reading while listening to you guys. And a couple of things from a nursing perspective that I want to share with people. The question was about, could you guys talk about the PCR test? And I also want to comment on masks. As a nurse, when we had someone that was infectious, we put them in isolation, that person, and we were in masks to attend to that person, but we weren't in masks or gowns or gloves when it comes to anyone else. So, for people who think they have to wear a mask outside, please go and educate yourselves. Go and find out that you're actually doing yourself more harm than good. You're actually breathing in all the muck that your liver and your bowel is pushing out in your out breath. And
most people have these cheap synthetic masks.
Yeah, all
these really cheap synthetic masks on for hours and hours and hours every day, day after day after day.
And a nurse
probably the same one you wore yesterday.
We have a joke because after 2 days they smell like your balls. That's why you never want to borrow another guy's one that's got in the car. Watch this. This is really funny. Vaccinated only gym thrown into isolation. Vaccinated only gym thrown into isolation as 15 people test positive for COVID. So it's not the unvaccinated that caused that. And what gets me is that doesn't change anything. And you think that should. You think you should go, hello?
The narrative keeps leaking, doesn't it? Sorry, Luke, what were you going to say? The narrative keeps leaking.
Oh, there's two of them, Scott.
Yep, so you've got that gym.
There's two outbreaks.
Yep, so there's a gym in Darlinghurst with 15 cases linked to it so far, all vaccinated. And then there's a pub in Bondi, which the unvaccinated can't get in. So 10 cases, all vaccinated. So the vaccinated are majority of the 177 cases today in Sydney. So they are spreading it. The unvaccinated are not responsible at all. And we're the ones segregated.
And it's quite
what happened to the pandemic of the unvaccinated?
The science, trust the science.
People just don't
blamed for it.
Well. If you look at places like the UK,
if you look at places like Scott, then you're going to be contagious.
No, I was just saying, if you look at places like the UK, the UK recently came out with a report, and they basically blamed the hospital rates at the moment because they're having the worst part of their pandemic right now, allegedly, and they blamed the hospital rates on the fact that they hadn't delivered the booster shot, so the third shot, quick enough. Now, that one statement there tells you everything you need to know. So everybody in hospital they're saying is basically already double jabbed. If they're blaming that whole situation not having the third jab,
Can I address one of the comments?
Yeah, Luke.
Some guy just on YouTube basically said why he called me basically a nice word, which I won't repeat. And he said, "What are you going on about? No one said you can't spread it." That is the point. Why are we locked out? Because he's talking about no one said that the vaccinated can't spread it. And he's calling me a name that. So why are we locked out then? So why is there any segregation? That's the exact fact of the matter.
I know they should have got me to do their propaganda because I would have come up with a really simple answer for them. They should have said, no, because we don't want you guys to get it because you're unvaccinated. We're really worried about you. I mean, it's so simple. If they really wanted to follow through, no, because we're really concerned.
Well, they're not actually that clever.
Plus we can.
No, think about it, guys. I mean, seriously. You can have that one for free, Dan. You can have that one for free.
Well, we actually had the protest. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask Richard this question? I'm interested to know because I know that Stephen Marshall got paid a lot of money to roll out these COVID apps where someone would have to take a photo of themselves and identify exactly where they were within 15 minutes of the police asking them. He was crowing about it. He thought it was a fantastic idea, great chance for South Australia to employ people and show what a great innovative city it is. It's Adelaide is. So please tell me what's happened on that front.
I have seen absolutely nothing in the country. There was supposed to have been a trial 2 weeks ago start. I think I uninstalled the app off my phone anyway, so I mean,
I think it was a trial with a couple of thousand people. I think that's what
but where's this trial? Because it was supposed to be a trial of people and a trial of businesses, I thought. So obviously there must be some businesses somewhere in Adelaide that are actually participating in this trial, I'm assuming. But I've heard nothing since he had the big boast about it. Nothing at all.
How can you ever think that's a good idea?
Failed, hey?
That
would be
not only that, Scott, but when you hear the politician,
he's going to use that
when you hear the politicians speak,
isn't he?
That's what they're saying, but it obviously sounds like it's just a way to keep people. I mean, when he said that, you feel like saying, "Are you actually listening to what you're saying?" But then you heard the New Zealand Prime Minister talking about how she's happily going to segregate the community. And these people are saying things that 5 years ago, if you think it was a joke if they said it, now they're saying it like the whole morality has been rewired and everything's okay. And you're like going, I'm sorry, but, it's extraordinary. And I saw that post. And then, yeah, exactly. Well, we don't listen to them, but in America,
you still watching them?
I saw them talking about it on America.
I haven't watched them for a while. I get angry. I can't watch his anymore. I just get so upset.
Yeah, we can't watch him.
It's too hard.
That's why we have to do a show about him. I call up, has anyone watched it? They go, I can't watch him. But I'll tell you today what was funny. We went to a picnic protest. So we're just sitting in a park having a barbecue. That's the protest. We're allowed to be outside now, allowed to be masked, allowed to be 15 things apart. And we went to a corner of a major park and we're sitting there. And they had a massive busload of police there that eventually just went for. They just walked around the park all day, and because there was nothing to do. But it would have cost them a fortune to have it. But there was a table there of people that we sort of needed the table, and it was so to go up and saying, "Hi, I'm wondering, are you finished with this table? Because sorry, we're from the unvaxxed community." We want to finish. The power.
Because they're so scared of it. They're so scared of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, they got their masks on, Michael. They're fine. They got their masks on, mate. No, not a problem.
I did a little social experiment today. I put a sign out the front saying, what was it?
I got it.
House of Horrors, the living unvaxxed. Oh, there it is, the walking unvaxxed kids. So that's my house. So that was out the front. Dead there, I was in the hallway at multiple times hearing the kids, and you'd hear the mum going, no, don't go there. Keep walking. And he was on and on. But actually, two did try.
Don't they want to thrill?
Oh, my God.
Come on, man. It's Halloween. Get into the house. See what might happen.
I'm sorry. Are you serious? They were actually saying keep going.
Yeah, no, majority, 99%, there was heaps of people out. 99% avoided the house at all costs. But two did come, and they got extra lollies because of it. They were the brave ones that didn't segregate.
Did you lick them first?
Could be a way to keep the Jehovah's away.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You believe in
unvaxxed.
That's fine. There's amazing.
Can I just suggest something to you? Something I was talking to a friend.
Any more? It's actually. You know what? Can be honest. Let's be honest. It's like the Monty Python fucking news, isn't it? And the only difference is it's all real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the Monty. It's nuts what we're saying. It's absolute balmy.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous, and yet everyone's believing it. The fun we had tomorrow. We had. I don't know if you saw. We had a violinist play at the concert the other day. And he played the Australian anthem like it's got a broken heart, and it's gone viral around the country and the world. And he once they found out that he'd made a political stance, and they thought he was so they basically calling him an anti-vaxxer. One of the orchestras he was going to play in has absolutely said, we cannot be associated with you anymore. Basically, it's a fear of the government, not actually the virus. And now, though, he's played that. And we were saying, this is the power of art. It was a beautiful moment. Everyone's filmed it. It's going everywhere. So this man that the whole artistic community has shunned is now actually becoming the people's violinist. And people are going to remember his name. I think a lot of the bloggers want to meet him and talk to him. You should talk to him, Luke. He's an amazing guy. Yeah. And it's just really... and Scott too. I can put you in touch with him if you like. He's just this amazingly gentle guy from a Ukrainian background, and I think it's worthy of us making heroes, because he was close to go to Europe, doing solo concerts, which is extremely rare. You can only do that if you're highly accomplished, highly talented. He's throwing that all that away because he's so concerned about what's happening. And so,
but all these state orchestras, Michael, all these state orchestras, they're all government funded. Government funded to the hilt. It's all government money. So it's
I don't know if it was this. I don't know if it was the state.
You wanted to make a suggestion before. Sorry.
Yeah.
Scott wanted to make a suggestion before.
So I did want to make a suggestion. One thing that I was speaking to a friend the other day about this, and he was on the money. These chief health officers, they are kind of responsible for our health, right? Because we're in a pandemic, we're in an emergency allegedly. So with them being responsible for our health, if they don't give out the correct health advice, they are basically liable. It's malfeasance. Now, they are directly telling us to lock away inside. And if we're locking away inside, we're getting a lack of vitamin D, we're getting a lack of sunshine. And they're not telling us, this is just one of the examples, they're not telling us to supplement our diet with vitamin D because we're losing some. So this is actually designed to make us sicker. Now, whether they've designed it on purpose to make us sick is absolutely irrelevant. The fact that they are doing that means that they are already committing crimes against us by making us more sick. So I would encourage everybody to write a letter to the chief health officer or to whoever and basically point this out, that these people, they are also insured for malfeasance as well. And it's a lifelong thing. These politicians and these chief health officers, they need to realize that when they finish their job or their time in 2 or 3 years' time, that isn't when their liability finishes. Their liability will stay with them for the rest of their life. They are giving out medical advice, and they're responsible for our health. So this, just a question.
And there's other things.
There's just a lot of faith in the rule of law, though, Scott. Is there a rule of law?
Yeah.
Is there a rule of law to enforce that, Michael? You know what I mean? Is there a rule of law that will enforce that? Sorry, Scott?
That is true, but don't forget these people are insured. The insurance companies are private companies, and for them, if you send in, say, complaint after complaint after complaint to somebody's insurance, they have to forward it onto their insurance company. Now, if their insurance company then turn around and say, well, this person's too high risk to insure, then they could then lose their insurance, which in turn they would lose their medical license. So, it's actually still something we can achieve, bypassing the bureaucracy and going direct, because they've got to go to their insurance companies. So it's just a suggestion.
It's good, man. Yep. It's good. That's what we're here for. It's great. It's good. Bring them up.
And one other thing, if I can shamelessly cross-promote my show.
You're about to.
If any of you guys want to, if you're interested in the Scott Dawson show, I actually interviewed Gwenda and Richard and Tammy on last night's show. So we do that every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Queensland time. It's an opinion-based show, and I also bring people on and interview them as well, like this kind of format. But I do give quite a lot of my own opinions. So, I'll hop on to the Scott Dawson show. You can search on any of the social media; it will come up. You'll find it.
Do you have a show? Do you have a show, Richard?
No. I'm quite happy to jump on when people want me to jump on and speak my opinion anytime.
Well, that sort of brought a stop to it, didn't
it?
How about you, Gwenda? You got a show?
I reckon it's something interesting that you guys...
It really is easy to set up, and they're so much fun to do.
They are. They're good fun. All you need is a camera, bit of light, microphone, and you can do exactly what we're doing here. It's good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's people love it because people are actually so sick of mainstream media.
Yeah, I do have a show. It's called The Heal Show. Runs on a Tuesday night. I have audience from all around the world. It's really cool. So, yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Heal Show. Cool.
H-E-A-L.
And it was like a Zoom thing?
H-E-A-L?
Yeah. It's done via good old Facebook Live at the moment, but we've just been crossing over to StreamYard, actually. So, yes, it's Heal, H-E-A-L.
Oh, that's what we're using. Yeah, but I think I'm going to get Luke to stay on the line because I think we're going to move to what's the other one? What's the other one you use, Luke?
OBS Studio.
No, not OBS. Restream, because we're sort of getting limited to how many places we can stream to, and StreamYard already does 8. So yeah. Anyway, look, I think there's with the same with Scott and Richard. I'd urge you to do one because there is such a crying need for another narrative. There's a huge market out there of people who just want to hear opinions, hear people talk freely, and even they don't even need the 100% verified facts because no one can get them because everything's so corrupt. But they just want to hear where it is really, really important. So I urge you. It's so easy to set up and do. Because I'm not a journalist, I was a playwright, and Damien, we just met at the marches. It's just so easy to do, and it can be in these times. It can be very rewarding, and if you can't work as your own facts, well, it gives you something to do with your time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's.
I'm still working at the moment, but I mean that could change tomorrow.
Yeah,
if things change. Opportunities will present themselves, and I'll start doing something else.
What do you do, Richard?
You guys
are.
I'm a disability employment consultant. So I find jobs for people.
And also the health thing is one thing they go after, which is even if you don't actually.
Yeah, I'm just waiting.
Working through the NDIS. Through the NDIS.
No, not the NDIS. It's like the government. Technically, the company's contracted by the government to provide the service to people with barriers. So it's a matter of time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, I'm going to end. I'm going to. Who said Richard is disabled? That's terrible.
It's disabled.
Your fans are on me. That's
disabled. Just one thing before you go.
That's great. Yeah.
I've got to be careful what I say still.
Okay. Anything before we go? Because the other thing too is I'm going to leave today with a song that one of the followers has put forward for us to use, and some images from the marches we had here. And I want to just do a big call out to plug Luke. And what we're thinking of doing, this is the same for you, Scott, is that if on Sunday with all these different independent things going, of actually getting together like this from the different states, because we don't hear anything from South Australia. We don't hear anything from WA, just rumours through families. And we don't hear much from Queensland except this. And even Sydney, though from Sydney we're going to need someone actually is paying attention to what's going on in Sydney, Luke.
Well, when we get
Canberra, mate, we really got to nail Canberra. We've got to find someone to get.
No, mate. Honestly, Luke, you are doing a stellar job.
Admin officer.
No, you're great. No, seriously, Luke, you're doing a stellar job. I'm really proud. I think you're doing an amazing job. I'm only taking the piss while we still can.
He's doing a great job.
No, hats off to you.
I'll just say, just in finishing, the last thing you hear from me, it's just like everyone was talking about this sort of coincidence after coincidence after coincidence in this narrative. And it's almost like there's been a whole stack of coincidental narratives ever since the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Institution and all the rest of them came together in 2019, late 2019, October, and war-gamed what would happen in the world if there was an outbreak of this rampant, uncontrollable virus. 19 October. Then, by 2020, I just find it
not actually a goat.
More than coincidental that this narrative is playing
55,
out this way.
55 anyway. Shows to take. Sorry, David, what were you saying? The fucking thing keeps coming on.
Fucking goat. Gonna be new to that goat.
Anyway, I've got to go up. This is a song from Mandy Wag. And she's in Sydney. Like a lot of Australians, she's doing it really tough. And she just allowed us to use this song just to see if it resonates with some things. But what we will do is Sunday, if we get back, if you're an independent news person out there and you'd like to join up with Luke's trying to bring people together, which I think is wonderful. And if we could actually get someone from Tassie and the Northern Territory or New Zealand, I think it'd be really interesting. I think the audience would actually really love to hear what's going on in our country from actual real people who have got the courage to tell the truth instead of the enemy of the people, which is the mass media at the moment. So maybe really nice to meet you, Scott.
To report back from Canberra because he's not doing anything else.
So isn't he packing his bag at the moment?
Yeah.
He's packing,
I have no idea what he's doing.
He's got a trip planned over to Glasgow.
Very important stuff.
And tomorrow we've got Markin on, so the violinist that's going viral around the world at the moment. We're going to have him on tomorrow night to meet him, along with Dr. Paul Oosterhuis, who decided to do some Oosterhuis. He's amazing guy, and he got deregistered because he went up against the narrative on social media, and after 30 years of being an anaesthetist, he's now unemployed. Because how dare you question anything, you bad doctor sticking to your what's that oath that they stick to? Hippocratic oath. That's all he did. Sticking up for his Hippocratic oath and this. Yeah. Just to finish, this really happened today. I met this lady today. She went into a doctor's she wanted not an extension, just a short period, a letter to say a short period of time to evaluate what was going on with the virus. So an extension, really, a watered down extension. And the doctor got up, walked to the receptionist. She followed him. And in a crowded reception, he told the receptionist to call the police. And she said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I can't give you one. Call the police." And she said, "We got a duty of care." And he just kept telling basically saying, "Call the police. She's going to write it up for us." And she said, "Well, let me see another doctor." He says, "There's no one here that can help you." And that's it. And that's where we are now. The doctors are no longer, the doctor-patient relationship is dead because between them is a fear of the government.
Just on that point, I did a video. I had some footage sent to me from somebody else, which was an undercover video, which was done in a mass vaccination centre. So I would really encourage you to watch that, because one thing that was crystal clear, was there is no informed consent. Absolutely zero informed consent. And these doctors, if this person didn't push him so hard, then he would have, you would have asked the first questions and then been saying, well, fine, yeah, jab away, it sounds perfectly safe. But because this gentleman pushed so hard, eventually he got to the truth. And then the doctor then started saying what he actually thought. And one of the very prominent things that he did say was he would not vaccinate his 12-year-old son, or his 12-year-old child. Now, that was significant because he wasn't stopping other 12-year-old children from coming in and getting vaccinated. So I found that quite disgraceful. But yeah, I'd encourage you to watch it. It's on my channel, and it's something that will clearly show people there is no informed consent.
Where can we find your channel, Scott?
He's good. Scott Dawson's good. He keeps plugging it. He keeps plugging himself.
He's good, isn't he? So where would we find it, Scott?
He's good.
Well, you can go to www.scottdawsonshow.com.
We've got to stop. That's great. We've got to start plugging the show, Damien.
Yeah, so you can go to the website. Yep. The easiest place is to go to the website, because all the social media links are on the website. So if I get banned off one channel, then I can just replace the link. So if you just go to the website, you can find all the current social media links. Yeah. So that's www.dawsonshow.com.
He's great. You get banned much?
I'm currently from YouTube. I had my TikTok account deleted, which had over 500,000 views and 7,000 followers, and they just deleted it overnight with no explanation. And that was actually from the mass vaccination centre doing that. I basically did some 3-minute clips and uploaded them to TikTok. They really did not like that one, the doctor, so they deleted my account. YouTube, I'm on my second strike, so I'm on a currently 2-week ban.
Yeah, we're on a second strike with YouTube.
Just one suggestion with the social media thing. If you're on your very final life, then what you might want to do is just obviously broadcast the live show and then immediately delete it. So everyone can get to watch it live, but then delete it so the fact checkers don't get there and then give you your third strike, and then upload it to somewhere like Rumble. Yeah, upload it to somewhere like Rumble, and it keeps your account active.
That's a good idea.
I mean, this would all be really funny, wouldn't it, if it wasn't so diabolical? It would be.
Oh no, I agree.
It's so
I agree.
diabolical. It's so sinister. It's just.
I agree.
It knocks me sick, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. And that's why we're all so passionate about it.
It's astonishing. Yeah, it's a really good idea. It's astonishing. Yeah.
All
right. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming on. As usual, our hour show has just gone fucking way over. And but if you're interested in coming on next time, I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay. I get it. Play the song.
Thanks very much, guys.
Some words to say.